713 to the 281, yeah, I'm riding. Why they on me? Why they on me? I'm flying, sipping low key. I'm sipping low key and honest, flying rider. I get those goosebumps every time.
Newcastle United.
I get those goosebumps every time. I need the hybrid, throw that to the side. I get those goosebumps every time, yeah. When you're not around, baby, throw that to the side. I get those goosebumps every time.
Up the mugs, yes sir.
Good afternoon, everyone, and welcome to Loaded Mag NUFC. We are back again to have a conversation that we probably didn't want to have. We didn't want to have at this point this summer, but we are going to have it, and we're going to talk about it. Absolutely. We've got Daz in the house, fresh on his holiday, joining us via phone. So great to have you on, Daz. But Chris, how's things as well?
Yeah, other than the news, mate, all right. And you know what? Just as a little spoiler, I'm going to put a positive spin on this today. I really, really am. I've got one caveat, and that's all that I care about. I'll be deadly honest. But yeah, I'm on a personal level, mate. I'm good. Busy with work, but I thought we've got to take a lunch break. We've got to talk about this. We have to. So yeah, great to be on with you boys. I don't think we've ever done a 1:15 show, so interesting. But Dazzler, how's the holiday, mate? And how are you?
Not too bad. Can you hear me, guys?
Can hear you, mate? Yeah.
Yeah, all great, very good. Sorry, I moved because the Wi-Fi wasn't great. All good, apart from this absolute shit show, boys. Yeah, so all good apart from that. Enjoying the holiday. Weather is a bit cloudier today. I'm in Magaluf, by the way. Anyone in New York, yeah. But yeah, let's talk about this, boys. Let's run it through. How are you, Pete? First of all. Sky Sports Pete.
What's that?
Sky Sports Pete, I should say.
Less of that. Well, that's been and gone now, for sure. But look, I'm okay. In myself, I'm not okay with regards to Newcastle United's situation, and we will go through exactly, if people are joining late, to explain exactly what has happened. Well, look, this morning was always going to be the talking point. Will he or won't he be on the plane? And when we got this confirmation of the traveling squad, we knew that he wasn't, and it was always going to create a meltdown in the fan base, and it's exactly what it did. Keith Downey reported that he hadn't travelled for the long haul flight that was and the tour that was going to be 12 days long. No doubt he's been affected by everything on the situation with Liverpool and the potential move. Fabrizio Romano also talked about it, along with friend of the channel, Jordan Cronin. Interesting point on there was not only is Isak not in the squad and didn't travel on the plane to Singapore, but Lewis Hall, Joe Linton, and Tino Livramento, just back from the under-21s duty, were on the plane to Singapore. So that was a big telltale sign off the back of that. Then we get into some of the more detailed information on it all, because Craig Hope did break it, the news that we didn't want to hear with regards to Newcastle United and Alexander Isak, but others have since touched on it as well. Fabrizio Romano was one of them. Alexander Isak has informed Newcastle of his desires to explore a move this summer. The club are aware of plans and will now decide if a move, as Craig Hope initially reported, will materialise off that. David Ornstein as well has reported Alexander Isak wants to leave Newcastle United. Obviously, the absence, the Celtic friendly and the tour is crucial in that. Newcastle are keen to keep the Swedish international and stay on improved terms, but are also exploring potential replacements. Just going back to Fabrizio Romano, he also mentioned at the end of his tweet, Newcastle have already restarted exploring a move for the top striker, Martin Hardy, the Times has reported that, of course, he's rejected a contract offer. So that's different, boys, because he's now saying, Martin Hardy, that Alexander Isak has rejected a contract offer. He wants £300,000 a week and is exploring his options. Liverpool are still keen. Luke Edwards has reported on it too. Newcastle's position remains the same. They continue to insist that Alexander Isak is not for sale and will not be leaving this summer, but they potentially have an unhappy player on their hands. Interestingly, boys, the last one before I get your thoughts on it, Alex Crook of TalkSport and, of course, Ben Jacobs as well, friend of the channel, have said that although he wants to explore and move away, Liverpool are aware, but Al Hilal are preparing a bid believed to be in excess of £130 million. So this is where we are with Alexander Isak. But boys, what are your thoughts? Chris, I'll come to you first. What are your thoughts on this situation? We had a conversation after the Ben Jacobs show privately about this, and a lot of what we talked about was come true. Talk to us, mate.
Yeah, so after the Ben Jacobs show, we said, didn't we, Pete, that we felt that if Alexander Isak wasn't on the plane, that he was going to be going, and lo and behold, Alexander Isak was not on the plane, and yeah, I'll be honest, mate, I'm devastated. I'm not gonna deny and say that, you know, I'm not upset about it, because I am. I always knew this day was going to come. I just didn't think it would be now. Feels a year too soon, in my opinion. I had kind of resigned myself to the fact that he was probably going to leave next summer, but I thought we'd get one more year out of him. On the flip side, I'll be honest, there is a small part of me that's quite excited by this, and the reason I say that is because this opens a lot of doors, boys. And we knew the sale of Alexander Isak would open a lot of doors. That's not to say I want to rid of him. That's not to say that I don't want to keep hold of him. I do, but I almost feel like, you know, the inevitable has happened. For me now, my biggest caveat, and I'm saying this personally, you boys, I think, will differ with me on this. But my biggest caveat is Alexander Isak does not go to Liverpool. Under no circumstances does Alexander Isak go to Liverpool. I'd even accept an Arsenal. I'd accept a Chelsea. I would not accept Liverpool. I know you boys will say no. You know, you'd rather sell him abroad. Now that would be the ideal. That would be the ideal scenario. If he were to go to Saudi, if he were to go to La Liga, if he were to go to Bundesliga. But for me, my main priority is he does not go to Liverpool under any circumstances. Because for me, that would be the worst case scenario. I'll be deadly honest. But yeah, I'm disappointed. I'm upset over it. I'm sure I'll get over it. But you boys know I was already kind of further along the line than you boys mentally. Like I was saying, wasn't I, a few weeks ago, that, you know, imagine what doors this could open if we sold Alexander Isak for 170, 180 million. So in my head, I was almost kind of preparing myself for it, maybe. But that's not to say I'm not upset over it. I am very upset over it because I adore Alexander Isak, and I think he is the best striker in Europe. But it's difficult to hold on to the best striker in Europe, isn't it? And, you know, from what we're led to believe, he's asking for 300 grand a week. Do I blame him? Probably not, because, you know, he probably looks at all the wages that other people are getting and thinking, well, I'm worth that amount of money. Newcastle are in a position to offer that kind of money. And even if we were, Pete and Daz and the chatters, even if we were, we're just creating a rob for our own back, because it would massively break the pay structure. And then we'd have the likes of Anthony Gordon, Sandro Tonali, Bruno Guimaraes, Sven Botman and co. all saying, well, I want to be on a high wage as well. And I think we're creating a rob for our own back. So I'm disappointed. I'm upset. But I want this resolved quickly. I want it resolved quickly. If he's going to go, get gone quick, so that we can sort ourselves out, and we've still got a good 5 weeks left of the transfer window. I do not want to see Alexander Isak move in the last week of the window or once the season started, and I do not want to see Alexander Isak move to Liverpool. They're my two caveats. But Daz, what are your thoughts, mate?
Okay, I'm sick now after hearing this news. Like fucking, I said before, Tom Cruise couldn't even get this deal done. And just the thoughts of Graham, Bloating Graham, who always has this in his head that Isak could be on the move. But I know I'm just sick hearing this news. I get that he wants and he deserves the highest wage possible. I think he could accept what Newcastle have to offer as well, and I'm sure there's some kind of bargaining that it could be done. But like what you said, Chris, there's no way he can go to Liverpool. No way he can go to a Premier League club. If you ask me, we cannot sell him to a Premier League club. If it turns out if we have to sell him, none of us want to sell him. We have to sell him. Alex of Arabia has a nice sound to it if that's the case. Then because okay, we don't want to, or even in the Liga, send it back to the Liga. Look, if someone there wants, well, you're only talking, we're talking Real Madrid or Barcelona, where they take the money from somewhere. You know, well, lads, Chelsea, you're going to start getting involved as well as like if Gakpo, what's the whole? If Gakpo is actually signed yet, well, that's the whole still wasn't closed off. So.
It's close. I don't think he's signed yet. It's close.
Yeah, could this be one of the reasons it's playing on the background that Arsenal are still sniffing then as well? But it just throws us into an awful predicament. Like we're already looking for one striker, now we need two for definite. And like we gave him everything that we could possibly give him. Alanga, his buddy, and hopefully they're buddies. Champions League football, and he still wants out. I know we double probably what he's on today, but 300 is an awful lot if we're going from where we are. It's just, I don't know. And there's big questions for me then as well about what is happening at this football club. It's turning into an absolute mess. You know, there was talk of there like a week ago about blaming Paul Mitchell for not getting the contract done. You know, but there's a lot of what are Piff playing at? Like, there's still nothing about the stadium. There's so many questions now about everything, from the positive positions we're in to where we are currently. Now, that's not to say things cannot change again, as they can, but and for me, boys, I know you did the show with Ben and stuff. We said not the answer here for losing Isak as well. We need to be thinking bigger. Anyway, just my initial thoughts. Pete, what's your thoughts on this?
Where do we start? First of all, Daz, I think your mic's a little bit muffled slightly, so I think people couldn't hear you that clearly. I could hear you okay, but people that are watching maybe couldn't hear you quite clearly. Yeah, I'll be honest. I'm obviously gutted to hear it. You know, when you kind of think something might happen, and then when it does, that gutting feeling, kind of like it's actually happened, it's actually official. He wants to obviously explore and move on. Yeah, it's not nice to hear that your best player wants to leave the club. I'm similar with Chris. I would have been more okay with it a year down the line, going into next summer, where we've got a year to almost prepare for it. But there's a lot of factors to this. I've kind of been. I think the blow has been softened slightly because of what happened on Saturday. I think the fact that he wasn't at Celtic on Saturday has almost got my mind sort of churning towards the fact that he could potentially leave. Whereas the week before that, I was adamant he was going to stay at the club. So my mind's sort of been almost prepared to soften that blow. I think this situation could have been handled better. In hindsight, you'd have took the Ekatike deal and you would have sold him off and it would have been done and dusted. But I'm a little bit different to you boys. If we're going to sell Alexander Isak, I don't want him being sold to another Premier League club. I want him to go away. If he goes to La Liga, if he goes to PSG, if he goes to Saudi, you know, we don't want to lose him, but fine. He's going out of the league. I don't want him going to another Premier League club. And if this Newcastle United ownership and board are smart, and I have to be honest, there's question marks on that from what we've seen this summer of whether how smart this board and kind of ownership above Eddie Howe are. If they're smart, they will make sure that this deal, if he is sold, he is not sold to an English club. That would be the priority. And I had people in the Talk Man chat saying, what does it matter? I think it was Lawless said, what does it matter? You're not fighting for the title next year. What does it matter if he goes to a Liverpool or whoever? Well, it's the fact that you don't want to strengthen one of your teams that you're up against next season. Now, we're not going for the title, but we're going to be playing the likes of Liverpool. First home game of the season, Monday Night Football at St. James's Park. You don't want Alexander Isak shirting up against Newcastle United. You don't want it. You want him shirting up for Al Hilal in Saudi. You want him shirting up for PSG, where you can watch him and not feel too much of a way about it, knowing that you've got the money and you've gone and strengthened elsewhere, which is also what we need to do. There is movements that need to happen right now for Newcastle United. Now, there's all the talk about the potential of Newcastle United wanting to sign him to a new deal and blah, blah, blah. Fine, but you've got 24, 48 hours to make that happen. Otherwise, you need to move on. Because if he's in his mindset, and it's been over a week now, that he wants to leave the club, you've got to move him on.
Yeah.
I don't care how good he is. He is our best player. He's our best striker since Alan Shearer, right? But I'm sorry, you cannot have a player that is mentally not 100% there. Doesn't matter how good he is with the ball at his feet. If he's not mentally engaged and into Newcastle United, you're not going to get him. Look at Anthony Gordon, for example. Anthony Gordon last season, his head was gone because he thought he was going to Liverpool. And look at the performances he put in last season. Not good enough. It took him, and we're hoping, by the way, because we're still not seeing an improvement, it's took him a year nearly to get his head around the fact that he's staying at Newcastle United. That's even with a new contract that he got in October. You cannot afford to have a player, no matter what, that's not happy and is desperate to get out the club, to the point where you can't take him onto a pre-season friendly, and two, that you can't take him on a pre-season tour. I feel sorry for the fans over there, Newcastle fans that have travelled from England or anywhere else in the world to Singapore and South Korea, that are looking to see, maybe for the first time, Alexander Isak, because he's not there. He would have been the selling point for this tour, and he's not on that. So there's all of these factors that are at play here. You know, what are the rest of the squad thinking about this situation? Thinking about Alexander Isak going, they're going to be thinking, who are getting in? We've had loads of bids rejected for players already. Where are we at? What's happening? Like, there's questions. It's not just about Isak. It's about the overall squad and the whole situation. This pre-season and summer has been an absolute mess. We have been dragged through the mud this summer, and this was meant to be a summer of transition. This was meant to be a summer of change. This was meant to be a summer of evolution. It's been nothing but that. Anything but that. It's been an absolute nightmare situation, and something needs to change, and it needs to change quickly. And unfortunately, and it's hard for me to say this, if Alexander Isak leaving the club and being sold off means that we can actually get our heads right and kick on and move forward, then that's what we need to do. Now, Alex Crook has reported, obviously, that he wants out of the club, and he wants to. Oh, that's wrong. He wants to move on. There is also other reports on various other things as well, and I'll just see if I can try and grab it. 1 second. If this is the right one, I'll just check. No, I'll get it in a second. But Alex Crook has reported that Newcastle United are looking at alternatives. Lois Openda is a player that has been reported in the last 10, 15 minutes as a player that that Newcastle United are looking at as a potential to come in. And Newcastle United right now, I need to be looking in another direction. I need to be looking at what strikers, plural, because there needs to be more than one. They need to be making sure that they are getting at least 2 good, big strikers to come in to fill the void, because you can't replace Alexander Isak. He is irreplaceable, in my opinion. But any thoughts on that, boys? Anything else to add on that situation?
I think I just want to say, you know, you boys heard me say anyone but Liverpool. Maybe that's because of where I'm from. I don't know, but the reason I've not ruled out the likes of Chelsea, and welcome to Charlie, who was in the chat earlier. The reason I've not ruled out the likes of Chelsea is because we know the spending capability that Chelsea have. And for me, I wouldn't be overly concerned if Alexander Isak joined Chelsea. And maybe I'm thinking about Fernando Torres when he left Liverpool and joined Chelsea, because it doesn't always work out. And Chelsea, for me, and Charlie won't like this, Chelsea are a club who just hoard players. I wouldn't be devastated if Alexander Isak joined Chelsea. And the reason I say that is because I think that Chelsea have a lot of problems themselves. Yes, they keep bringing in all these players and it will click. I think I've said for years now, one day, sooner or later, it will click. But I just do not want him to go to Liverpool, because I think at Liverpool he would be a huge success. And I think Liverpool fans are probably all enjoying the fact that they feel like they've rocked the boat. I've had loads of messages this morning saying, oh, this is because of us. This is because we put in the 120 million verbal offer, etc. I think now, Pete, based on what you've said, it's about how the club act. Now, I know you mentioned before, about maybe signing the new contract, maybe trying to encourage them to stay for one more year. I think we've gone past that now. I think it's now, right, you've made your intentions clear. You didn't come to the Celtic game. You haven't come on the tour. I think it's time to just get rid, cut losses. But it needs to be made very, very clear, that you leave on our terms.
Yeah.
You leave where we want you to leave, and you leave for the price that we want you to leave. You've got 3 years left on your deal. I've seen people in the chat, and I understand it. I get it. I've seen people in the chat saying, put him in the reserves for 3 years. He can't go anywhere. We can't do that. We're not in that position. This is about getting the maximum value for our asset, and that's what we need to do. But as much as we heard, during the Ekitike deal, about Liverpool's power play, the strength of position is still with Newcastle. Yes, Alexander Isak wants to go. Yes, Alexander Isak wants 300 grand a week, and he's entitled to want that. And I don't necessarily have a problem with that, but Alexander Isak can't have it all his own way. If he's decided he wants to leave, that's fine. I'm very, very disappointed, and obviously I'm upset at the fact he wants to go. But the club now have to act. The club now have to take the appropriate action to make sure that our future is secured. And to do that, we need to get the maximum value for our asset. We can't be bullied. We can't have this small club mentality where we go, oh, where would you like to go, Alex? No. There's a price, and you'll go where we want you to go. And I'm hoping, Pete, and whether this Pete and Daz, I don't know whether this will happen or not, but I hope our good friends in Saudi come in with a nice lucrative offer for Alexander Isak, and he can get those 300 plus grand a week wages that he wants, and they come in with a price upwards. I was a little bit concerned when I saw on the article that they were preparing a bid for upwards of 130. I want to see it much higher than 130. I want to see bids in excess of 150 million. And I want that market to be set so that the club can say to Alexander Isak, you can go and get your wages, but you won't be going to Liverpool, and you won't be going to the club that you necessarily want to go. The deal's got to be right for the club and the player. It's not just about Alexander Isak. Some people will say he'll force the hand of Newcastle. I don't think he's in that position to do that. He's made it clear he wants to go. The club will try and facilitate that move for him, but it's got to be on our terms. We're the ones with a 3-year contract in front of him. So he's got to, wish the club well, go on our terms. He'll get what he wants, and we get what we want. It can't just all be about Alexander Isak, and the club need to act quickly, and they need to do it now. I don't want to see over the next few days, oh, we're trying to negotiate a contract with him. Oh, we're not sure. Just get rid. Get it done. And then go out and go and replace Alexander Isak, and also start upgrading the squad. Because, and this is what I was talking about with it being exciting, this amount of money can literally transform us as a club. It's an exciting opportunity for us. I didn't want it to happen now. I wasn't wishing Alexander Isak to go. But as soon as Alexander Isak indicates he doesn't want to be at the club, I don't want to keep a player who doesn't want to be here. So I'd rather see him go out the door, wish him well, thank you for the service, and we move on.
Yeah, just to add on that, we did talk about it. Gianluca Di Marzio did mention a few days ago about Al Hilal considering a move for Alexander Isak. Just for people that have come into the chat, and we have 950 live right now. Make sure you click those likes, people. Thank you for tuning in at 1:15 today. We've been running since. Just a reminder that that Alex Crook did mention that Al Hilal are preparing that bid. Chris, you talked about it as well, in excess of 130 million.
Higher.
Do you think Saudi is a viable option for Alexander Isak? Do you think that could be a potential destination for him?
Well, I saw someone put in the chat there. I haven't heard any, and I haven't got to check. But first of all, can you hear me?
Yeah, a little bit better.
I'll move it closer. So PSG considering entering the market for Isak, because that would be viable for us as well, because we don't want Premier League, right? But to answer your question, Pete, anywhere with the Premier League at this stage, but at the right price. Because he cannot go to a Liverpool, even though my phone is hopping from my Liverpool mates all wanted a piece of the pie to rub it in, of course. But the other thing is that I'm concerned about now, as we're talking here, is what must this feel like for everyone on that plane to Singapore? The likes of Bruno, the likes of Tonali, the likes of everyone, like Livramento, who's been linked to Man City, and everyone must be going, and Alanga, who's just after joining. Hey, is he fucking off? Seriously, and the owners, they need to put down some serious markers over the next couple of weeks. Serious, if this is to be allowed to happen now at this stage, because it's starting. It's all kind of starting to come apart, boys. And from a position, a brilliant position we're in, is slightly dissolving. That's what it feels like now at this moment in time. After all the players we could not get over the line to this situation, it's becoming a bit of a joke. So serious markers need to be laid down.
Yeah, you know what, Daz? Sorry, Pete, just to jump in before you say, I think you make a really good point, Daz. It's not just the impact of losing Alexander Isak, it's the impact of where that leaves us as a club. And this is why what the owners do now is so important. Go and get the correct deal for the club. Get the correct deal for Alexander Isak if must. Get him out the door, and then go and show your existing squad and your fan base exactly what you're all about. That's what you need to do. Go and show that Newcastle United is a big club, and go and get those signings that we need. Go and bring in the players that we require. Because what I don't want to do is sell Alexander Isak and then hear about us dilly-dallying over certain deals. Go and get the players that we need. And there's no excuses now, because we will have the funds to be able to do that. The club have to act, and they've got to act swiftly, because time is running out. Sorry, Pete.
I expect the club to be acting right now. I don't care whether they're on the flight to Singapore, wherever they're going, South Korea. I don't care. They need to be getting these deals done. Liverpool were able to sanction and get the deal done for Hugo Ekitike and have him fly over afterwards. Newcastle United should be getting the deals done now for players. I expect within the next 24, 48 hours, bids to be going in for players to be getting these deals done. There is no doubt about it. We need to act, and we need to act now. All of our business needs to be done in the striker department before we sanction any move for Alexander Isak. It's as simple as that. For me, I'm not holding on to any hopes of Alexander Isak staying. In my mind, he's gone. Like he's already left the club in my mind. I don't expect him to stay. The only way I would see that is if we pay him an obscene amount of money, 300 grand plus, to be able to get that deal done. There's some other people in the chat with some super chats just giving some suggestions. You've got Roy, welcome to the chat. Thank you for your super chat. Kane and Sesko as a potential option. Sesko was talked about previously, was linked with Newcastle United at the weekend on the back of Isak's news. You've got Tino, welcome to the chat. Eddie and players don't deserve this. Depressing. Absolutely. They do not. Eddie Howe does not deserve this. He has been thrown under a bus again for another summer window in this situation. And he's the one that's having to try and hold on to keeping all of this together. This is not on Eddie Howe, and that needs to be made absolutely clear. This is not his fault. It's down to mismanagement and poor organisation above him, and it's about bad decision-making. These things, with regards to Alexander Isak, shouldn't solely be made on by Eddie Howe. It should be the sporting director, it should be the CEO that are working together with Eddie Howe to make these decisions. But lo and behold, we've got a CEO that's working his way out of the club, and we've got no sporting director, so he's got no support. He's having to do all of this himself. This is not on him whatsoever. He should not be in this position. He should have been given the keys to the kingdom this season, and he's been given anything but that. Gene Esther's put, I'd rather take 90 million from a club abroad than 120 to Liverpool. I'll be honest, I want more than that. Alexander Isak is a unique, irreplaceable striker for Newcastle United. For me, and to be fair, before we went live, Keith Downey was on Sky Sports News, and he did say the valuation of Newcastle United for Alexander Isak is 150 million. And for me, regardless of whether he wants to leave or not, that is the price minimum that we should be asking for, whether it's an English club or whether it's a club in Europe or beyond. It doesn't matter. They are the prices. And look, Sam, you're all right. Welcome to the pressure of being a big club. This is what we're not used to. We are not used to this. Newcastle United being in the positions we are and having players of this level, we're not used to being in situations where top clubs are coming to take our best players. So this is very much a humbling situation for us. Just want to throw these points out. I did mention before there were some comments around Alex Crook and Ben Jacobs. Ben Jacobs has commented on this. Alexander Isak, of course, has said he wants £300,000 a week, as TalkSport have said. His preference is to leave. Leipzig's Lois Openda and Brentford's Johan Wieser are two names targeted. Brentford seeking 40 million plus for Wieser. Newcastle preparing a new bid of north of 30 million. So, boys, Lois Openda we've talked about previously, very tentatively. Is he someone that you would take at Newcastle United? Let's be honest, boys. Nobody's coming in and getting anywhere near to Alexander Isak because of the level he is. So, who's out there as a potential at this moment in time, in your opinions?
So for me, just to reply very quickly off that Ben Jacobs article, as far as I'm concerned now, Newcastle just go and pay the 40 million for Johan Wieser. Get Wieser wrapped up, get it done. All right, you might be paying 5, 6, 7, 8 million more than what you want to. Get the deal done. Just get the deal done, and then Johan Wieser comes in and replaces Callum Wilson, which is what we've needed. We've known that we've been needing this for weeks now. Just get that deal done. In terms of a replacement for Alexander Isak, which I didn't think we'd be discussing this window, I would be looking at the likes of Lois Openda, who's been mentioned. I think he, is a player with real potential. We've spoken about him on the channel before. Yeah. I would be looking at Benjamin Sesko. I would be exploring whether a deal could be done for him. I would have said Hugo Ekitike, but unfortunately that option is no more, which is a shame and frustrating. He would have been the one that I would have targeted personally. But yeah, off the top of my head, Pete, now I think Lois Openda is a good shout. Has Victor Osimhen joined Galatasaray yet?
I think he's close. Why not pay the money though? Why not pay the money for Victor Osimhen?
Sorry, I will name someone else. Goncalo Ramos from PSG.
Yeah.
Goncalo Ramos from PSG doesn't get his game, and I think he's a great age, and I think he's a player that we should be looking at. And as I said to you, Pete, after the Ben Jacobs show offline, I will be getting on the phone to PSG and I will be saying, "Do you want to buy Alexander Isak?" Telling them what the price is and saying that we would be interested in taking Goncalo Ramos off their hands. That is what I would be doing personally.
Yes.
I think we get on the phone to anyone and everyone, because look at Benjamin Sesko, definitely. I don't think that like if we'll let two go there with a Openda as well. So maybe Samu A from Porto. I can never pronounce his name. Chris, fill in the blank there.
Howe.
That's him. Yes, grant him. We need two. I'm not the biggest fan of Wieser. He'll do a job, but I don't want us to get into a desperate situation now either. Wieser was fine when we had Isak, but I think we need two top-notch strikers now. And I think as I said, the lads need to put down some markers, or they're going to be fucking things are crumbling all over the shop, and Isak won't be the only one that wants to go unless they do something about this and do it fast. Time is running out.
It is running out. Tickle my Tonali. Sorry, Chris, 1 second.
No,
he says, let him go. Sign Sweden's real number 9, Gyökeres. Imagine that if we stole him. I mean, he's on. I think he's on the way tomorrow to join up with Arsenal's team. So I don't think that will be happening. But a signing of that ilk. There was someone else in the chat, Chris. You put it up a second ago that said, Colin Mwane and Goncalo Ramos as a double striker deal, getting them both in potentially, and maybe doing a deal with Alexander Isak to go to PSG could well work. I mean, that's a real potential there. If Newcastle United were ambitious enough to go and get 2 really good strikers to come in and potentially fill the void for Alexander Isak, there's your potential right there, and you're sending Alexander Isak on to PSG and out of the Premier League. I wouldn't rule that out. I would not be against that deal, if I'm being honest with you. That would be something that I would absolutely be looking at as a potential. Couple of members comments in here. Gary D, member for 41 months. The club is a shambles. Certainly this summer, Gary, it has not been good. The club has really failed itself in what it should have been doing this window in comparison to what's happening this window. The Clon Lad, member for 21 months. Thank you very much for being a member. PIF and our board have been a shambles this summer. Everybody's saying the same, boys. Just your reflections on the own, not necessarily the ownership, but the ownership, the board, everybody above Eddie Howe, and this whole situation of how this summer's being handled. What are your thoughts on this, Chris?
Do you know what? There was a comment in the chat, and I starred it. Toonami said it earlier, and he said, "I feel for Howe, but at the same time, he lied to all of us." Now, I get why you feel like that, Toonami, because obviously we heard the excuse for the Celtic game, which give us all the jitters, and then obviously we've heard today, that it's a thigh strain, and that's why he can't travel, and we know deep down that is not the case. In terms of Eddie Howe, I do have sympathy for him because I feel like he's been let down. I feel like this transfer window hasn't been how he probably envisaged and how he was promised. But for me now, it's about moving forwards, and it's about making sure that we right the wrongs that have been going on these past few weeks and months. We either feel sorry for ourselves and be down in the dumps, or we do something about it, but we've got to act quickly. As Eddie said at the back end of last season, we now have to act quickly, and we've got to start doing it right now. For me, it's about how we react to this. We've got to move Alexander Isak on quickly in it, as I said before, a deal that works well for Newcastle United and for Alexander Isak, and we need to make sure that we identify the targets that we want and go big on them. Just go in and go and get the players that we need. You would like to think that there is contingency plans in place. I would hope that is the case. And whether we press the emergency button or pull the emergency lever, it feels like that's what we have to do right now. But what I don't want to see is this be dragged on for weeks and weeks on end. And I think the club, ideally as well, I would like to see somebody from the club making an announcement or a statement, because I do feel that that's needed. That we've heard in the past, that people who are connected to the club shouldn't feel like they've got to make announcements, but when things like this are happening, it just feels it feels really disorganized, and it's leaving the fan base worried and concerned. And I think it's right that somebody comes out and says something and it details exactly what's going to be happening, because at the moment there's a lot of unrest, and it quickly feels, from being really excited at the back end of last season in qualifying for the Champions League, winning our first trophy in 70 years, very, very quickly things have changed, and the mood is not quite the same. That can be retrieved and that can be improved, but we've got to act quickly, and we've got to not do what we've been doing for the last few weeks. We've got to take action. So for me, I just hope that the club back Eddie Howe. I hope that I hope Eddie Howe, if what Eddie Howe wants, Eddie Howe should get, in my opinion, and the club should back him all the way to ensure that happens. Daz, what do you think?
What's the question about the owners? Is it?
Yeah, just the structure above Eddie Howe and how bad it's been this summer.
Yeah. It's been a disaster with the bids we covered the other day, or the 5 or 6 players that we tried to bring in. We weren't willing to go to the certain limits. Rightly so in some cases. But like I put the picture in our chat earlier on as well about the Kevin Keegan picture where it was converted to Eddie Howe. And is this our moment now of where the time we sold Andy Cole to Man United? That please God, not let it be selling Isak to Liverpool here or any other Premier League club for that matter. It has just been a total disaster this summer, boys. We talked for so long about all the potential players that we could bring in and building on what we have. It's starting to make that Vernon and Anita summer look pretty positive the way it's going at the moment. So I don't know. But I'm on holiday and I'm going to enjoy the rest of it. I'm going to try and forget about this stuff as well. But boys, it is not good. It's not a good day to be in Newcastle fan.
No, it isn't at all. And if you need to shoot, because I know you're on holiday, no problems at all. The one thing I'll say is that other teams in years gone by have lost their best player and been able to rebuild. Liverpool are an example of one of them. Luis Suarez, as a prime example, they were able to lose one of their main players and be able to rebuild with the money and reinvest into the team. Just because Alexander Isak's leaving doesn't mean that all is lost. It will massively dent us in the preparations and what we're able to do in the season. But depending on how quickly, and lots of people in the chat have said, how quickly? When do Newcastle United ever act fast? Well, they're going to have to. They cannot afford to let this continue on. They cannot afford for this to continue. They cannot afford to be slow-paced as they have been all summer. And you know what? They are going to need to do what they haven't done for a long time. Just go and pay the damn money. Go and pay the damn money for a player that they want. You said, Chris, go and pay the 40 million for Wisa. I say go and pay the 50 or 60 million it will take to get Kolo Muani out the club. Go and pay the 60 million that's going to take Goncalo Ramos to get out of the club. And the money that you were going to give to Alexander Isak, go give it to them. Go and let them be the guys that take us forward. Go and show the likes of Sandro Tonali. Go and show the likes of Bruno Guimaraes. Go and show the likes of Tino Livramento, who is apparently in negotiations for a new contract, that actually we are still a club that you want to be at, because we're still a club that's going places, albeit we've lost our main guy, that we're still able to build and be a threat in the Premier League and in the Champions League next season. Because look, we're still playing Champions League football. We still are a pull for a lot of players out there. Yes, we've had rejections, but there are still lots of players that want to play at Newcastle United. With that money that's being reinvested, can we now go and afford James Trafford at 40 million? Can we now go and potentially afford a Lucas Chevalier at 45 million, potentially, is what was been reported in the last 24 hours? Can we now go and afford the players that we couldn't potentially afford the values of and actually properly strengthen the team? That's what I want to see from Newcastle United now. I want us almost spending the money before it's even been received. I want us to go and buy those players and then get the money in for Alexander Isak and then send him on his way. That's what I need to see right now.
Just to jump in, Pete, for one sec, because everyone in the planet is going to know what we're eventually going to get for Isak. The value of the players that we go for already shoots up again to another level. Now you'll see the Newcastle tax in full force. So I think that suggestion that you alluded to, and when the charts were of a player plus cash deal, wherever he does end up, not the Premier League, is something we definitely need to be exploring. And PSG sounds the ideal situation at this present moment in time.
Yeah, it's not an ideal situation. John Matt says, hopefully PSG offer Colomani plus cash for Isak. We'd mentioned that previously as a potential option that we would take. There was a comment here that Chris and Daz, I'm just going to steal it for a second, Chris. It's from Mags. It says, so Eddie has been bullshitting us all along. Look, if you think that Eddie Howe is going to openly come out and say all this stuff directly to the media, then you're mistaken. Managers very rarely do that, and Eddie Howe is not that type of manager. He would have wanted to keep this in-house. It's managed to get its way out, which is not ideal. The only thing I would say about Eddie Howe in this situation that he could have done better is that he could have handled the Celtic situation better. He could have made that decision to say, right, if Isak's not traveling, Joe Linton and whoever else was injured that still travelled, you go home as well, and not make it as obvious. This could have all still been bubbling in the background, but not made it obvious. Maybe, and I tweeted this out today, is this Eddie Howe telling us without telling us? Is he giving us our own clue, giving us the clues to go on without actually saying the words? So Alexander Isak not turning up for pre-season, that's going to get people talking, but without him saying anything. Is Alexander Isak not going on the tour, sending the message without him having to actually say anything? Because he should not be the one fronting this up. Eddie Howe should, in my opinion, he shouldn't be the one fronting this up. But what do you boys think on that?
I don't know. I agree with what you're saying, Pete, in terms of it not being handled well. I think I said it at the time. I felt like it was a faux pas, or whether Eddie was advised to say that, because it stunk as soon as that excuse came out at the Celtic game. Because the problem was, the line peddled to the media by the club, we believe, was that he needed to rest to get minutes in his leg. He needed to rest and not get minutes in his legs. That was the idea. You know, he didn't want to be risked against Celtic. And then quickly after that, he allegedly flew to Glasgow and then was advised to go home because he didn't want all the media around him and etc. etc. But that didn't apply to everybody. And I feel like that was a mistake. And that's when the warning signs first came about. Whether Eddie was advised to do that, I don't know. Whether Alexander Isak sprung it on him, which he could have done, maybe when they arrived at Glasgow. This is the thing, none of us really know. Maybe Eddie's had to react on the spot. But again, this is what happens when you don't have a team in charge above you advising you. It feels like everything's on Eddie out, and that's not good. A manager's job is to manage the team. You can't do everything yourself. You need a good team around you, both above you and below you. And at the moment, I don't feel like we have that. And the actions of the last 2, 3, 4 days have made that abundantly clear to me. I think it quickly needs to change, if I'm honest.
Daz, any other thoughts on all things Newcastle United, Isak, Eddie Howe? Anything else that's kind of going through your mind at the moment? Because I've got to be honest, because this has all just come out really quickly, I've got loads of things just going through my mind, and it's hard to kind of just refocus exactly where we are right now as a club. What are your initial thoughts right now?
Last thing I'll say, lads, before I drop, because my connection's kind of going in and out. I think that your question was originally around like Eddie Howe and how he handled the situation piece, and look, it hasn't been great. But if you think back to last summer and the total mess we're in then as well, with Paul Mitchell coming in and upsetting things, and what did he do out of that? He performed a miracle in us getting Champions League football and us winning the League Cup, first trophy in 70 years, and blah blah blah. Like what he did then. Maybe he just thrives in these kind of situations, and he can eke the best out of everyone again. It does not seem like that at this point in time, but the guy can't keep doing miracles either, and especially when the second day of his holiday he's pulled into to sort all this mess out with Paul Mitchell leaving. So I don't know. He's gonna run out of road eventually as well. He's gonna say I have to say enough is enough. But I don't see how anyone could be throwing Eddie Howe under the bus for this. Like he's trying his best, and he's done some amazing things for us over the last number of years. This is not down to Eddie Howe. He needs help. He needs to accept help though in certain areas as well. But the owners here, day by day the questions on the owners and not putting people in place. The CEO situation. We know that Darren is on the way out of the club for the last nearly year at this stage, and we still don't have someone in there. It's just the three of us would run things better than it's being run at this point in time. I think so. I don't know. They just need to sort this out. But boys, I'm going to drop because I don't want to his connection to drop or something. So thanks everyone for watching. Smash that like button as well. Things will get better. So don't let it get you down. I'll be drinking a bottle of whiskey tonight. Thinking of ways we can get out of this mess. But boys, I'll chat to you soon. And chatters, see you when I'm back. Take care.
Take care, Daz. Great to see you. See you in a bit.
Take care, Daz. Take care, mate.
Top man. Yeah, it's something else that's just popped up here with regards to the Saudi link and Al Hilal potentially coming in for Alexander Isak. This was 5 or 6 days ago when it was first initiated. Stefan Borson did tweet out and said, feels unlikely to me, would be adjusted to nil profit versus book value by UEFA and would also require a full fair market value approval by the Premier League. So there may well be some sticking points with regards to a potential deal with Saudi. But even if it was a sort of a trying to think of the right word, even if it was a sort of devalued fee that we would get for Alexander Isak, would you still take that in order for him to move to Saudi, Chris?
No, I don't think I would. I'm at the point now where I want him to be sold to the highest bidder. I just don't want that to be Liverpool, if I'm honest. I really, really don't. I keep seeing things in the chat from Liverpool fans saying, you need to get your head out the clouds and you should know better. You're old enough. For me, I get what you're all saying. I'm going to come to a point that I think a Liverpool fans made in one of the questions, and it is a fair point. But for me, he's our player. And we should sell Alexander Isak for whoever's willing to put that money up. And I know that Stefan Borson's there saying, fair market value and stuff like that. That if it was 500 million, that conversation could come into play. Anything up to 200 million for me is more than fair market value. That shouldn't come under question. We're talking about one of the best strikers in Europe, and I think, if anyone tries to tell me that 120 million's fair or 130 million's fair, it's not. It's what we want to sell him for. Let's not forget, we paid 63 million for this player, and he's been an absolutely outstanding acquisition. He's scoring goals at all levels. So if we want 150 million for him, if we want 160 million for him, if we want 180 million for him, that's what he's worth. And people pouring cold water over it. I understand with the Saudi link, like I say, if someone, say Al Hilal come on with a 500 million bid, fair enough. But if Al Hilal come in with, like a 170, 180, 190 bid, that's fair market value.
Yeah. I don't think that will be, I think there'll be something around that potential Saudi and non-profit stuff that Stefan Borson's mentioned. I don't see that if he was to go to Saudi, I think his value and his work would hold because of the type of player that he is. There's no way that they could argue that he's not worth the money that he's been willing to be paid. And there's no reason why Newcastle United couldn't get that level of money because lots of other teams have benefited from it. Other teams other than Newcastle United have benefited from it. I don't think we haven't sold a player to Saudi. I don't believe so.
Maxi.
Oh yeah, okay. Maxi did go. Sorry, he was the only one.
Who went under value, by the way.
Yeah, 23 million.
Undervalued.
Yeah, you're right. To 23 million, he went to Saudi, and you know at that time there was talks a lot of that summer that he was going to go for 30. So you know a £7 million drop. It's a different ballpark. It's a different conversation with Alexander Isak. So look, we know that he wants out. We know that the club are looking at alternatives. We've talked about it before, the likes of Lo Sependa being one of them, that is being potentially looked at as a replacement. We know Randall Colomwani is a player of interest of Newcastle United. We know last weekend there was a link with Benjamin Sesko to Newcastle United. We know there's been at least one bid put in for Johan Wieser. And there's a potential, as Ben Jacobs said on our channel, and again today, that there's going to and likely to be another. Let's see what Newcastle United hook up from there. But this is not over. We are going to be back talking about this for days on end until there is confirmation. Morgan Rogers, not a striker, but does it mean that we can go big in a particular player on a particular area? Would you take a Goncalo Ramos and a Johan Wieser strike force if it meant is going and getting a Morgan Rogers as well, Chris?
Absolutely, yeah. But let's not forget, Pete, if and when Alexander Isak goes, that's going to be perfectly possible. I think somebody put it actually in one of the star questions. I'm gonna mention this, and this is only rough figures, but it gives you all an idea of kind of where we are. Dave, I'm not going to try and pronounce the next part of your name, so I'll just stick with Dave. Dave says, with amortization, we'd stand to make 125 million profit with 150 million sale. Gives us up to 625 million to spend if we are able to improve sponsors, etc. in the future. And that's certainly the way I'm looking at this, Pete. I'm thinking this is an opportunity for us to level up. None of us wanted to lose Alexander Isak. Alexander Isak was the untouchable. He was the one we didn't want to leave. But that was until Alexander Isak indicated that he wanted to leave. As soon as Alexander Isak says he wants to go, the club have got to try and move him on. But this gives us an opportunity to go out there and go and spend big. And that's certainly what I hope we do. Bringing in someone like Morgan Rogers would be brilliant. Goncalo Ramos, you mentioned, Johan Wieser. I still think we could do with someone like Johan Wieser because you can't go out and buy two, world class strikers. It just won't work. Johan Wieser will be excited to join Newcastle United, and I think that he will be a more than capable understudy for whoever we bring in to replace Alexander Isak, and that's certainly how I'd view it, how I'd see it. So yeah, personally, I'd go and get Johan Wieser. I'd look at the likes of Sesko, the likes of Openda, the likes of Goncalo Ramos, and yeah, why not then level up and go and try and maybe get a Morgan Rogers? Why not? But because of the room that this Alexander Isak sale gives us, that's now a possibility. That's something that we can actually discuss and can actually think about. What about you, Pete?
Yeah, I would take that absolutely. A Morgan Rogers and Johan Wieser, like Goncalo Ramos, or a Randall Colomwani partnership. If it meant someone like a Morgan Rogers or a top level player coming in, what's also been reported as well is that Manchester United interested in Ollie Watkins, someone as an experienced striker like him coming in with a similar mould to Alexander Isak. I'd potentially take with one other. As a potential striker if Villa are willing to sell. That's the kind of business that I'd be looking at Newcastle United to be doing. But what is clear to end on, mate, as we finish the show, no, Wolfie, no, let's not go there. But just to finish the show is that, look, Alexander Isak wants out. We'll be gutted to see him leave, but the club still goes on, and that's the most important thing. And what we do next is going to be crucial to what happens in the rest of this season and the summer window to come. But what you can be sure of is that we will be covering it on Loaded Mag NUFC. People, we're out of here. We will speak to you very, very soon and be back with more transfer news, hopefully some positive ones in the future. Let's end it on a positive with our sponsor.